We often think inflammation is just that soreness after a tough workout, maybe, or, the redness around a cut.
Right, the obvious stuff.
But what if that exact same process was, like, quietly ticking away inside? Maybe even playing a part in feeling down sometimes, or struggling with weight.
Exactly. That's this whole idea of hidden inflammation we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Yeah, this deep dive is all about figuring out what's really driving that inflammation under the surface, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. We'll be digging into insights from Dr. Mark Hyman based on his recent YouTube discussion.
So think of this as a shortcut, maybe, to understanding something that feels pretty complex.
Totally.
We're trying to pull out the most interesting bits, the useful stuff that can actually make a difference without getting, lost in all the jargon.
We're looking for root causes, not just sticking plasters on symptoms.
Exactly. Our mission here is simple. Sift through the info, bring you the key takeaways. We want you to feel well-informed about inflammation, how to prevent it, so you feel more in control of your own health.
Absolutely. Being empowered with that knowledge.
Okay, so let's start basic. Inflammation. What are we really talking about? We all know the classic signs, right?
Yeah. Redness, heat, swelling, pain. The old descriptions even had Latin names. Rubor, Keller, Doler, tumor. Very clear.
Pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned Dr. Hyman quickly pivots from that.
He does. Straight to this concept of hidden or silent inflammation, which is different. It's not that immediate response to getting hurt.
So it's more like a slow burn.
Exactly. A low-grade, persistent simmer. And that can have really big long-term consequences.
And we're not talking minor issues here. This hidden type is linked to some major health problems.
Oh, absolutely. Huge ones. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. Even things like depression, autoimmune diseases, allergies. It's a pretty long list.
Wow. It's surprising, too, because you mentioned things like being overweight or having diabetes. People don't always think inflammation first.
Right. But they are actually states of chronic low-grade inflammation. It's way more common than most people think.
Okay, so if it's everywhere, what's fueling it? Where does Dr. Hyman say we should look first?
Well, one of the biggest drivers he points to is, maybe surprisingly, our gut. Specifically, the microbiome, those trillions of bacteria living inside us.
The gut microbiome.
Right.
Why is that so central?
It's fascinating, actually. Something like 60, maybe 70% of our entire immune system is located right there, in the gut.
That's huge.
It is. And think about it. The gut is constantly dealing with everything coming in from the outside world. Food, bacteria, everything we swallow.
So it has to be like a gatekeeper, constantly deciding what's friend or foe.
Precisely. And when your microbiome is healthy and balanced, it plays a massive role in keeping your immune system regulated. The gut lining itself is like the first line of defense.
The barrier, letting good stuff in, keeping bad stuff out.
You got it. But what happens when that barrier gets damaged? That's when you hear terms like leaky gut, right?
Leaky gut.
Yeah.
So things get through that shouldn't.
Exactly. Undigested food bits, bacterial toxins, they leak into the bloodstream. Dr. Hyman uses a pretty strong analogy. He says it's like exposing your immune system to a sewer.
Oof.
And that exposure, it triggers the immune system, leading to inflammation pretty much everywhere in the body, systemic inflammation.
And this idea of the gut health link, it's not exactly brand new, is it?
Not at all. It's actually quite amazing how long this has been recognized. Dr. Hyman mentions ancient traditions like Ayurveda always focused on the gut.
Right.
And Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he famously said, all disease begins in the gut. Even early researchers like Mechnikov were looking at the gut as a source of illness way back.
It's interesting how the approach has changed, though, from like drastic measures back then to focusing on balancing the microbiome now.
Big time. We understand it much better now, thankfully.
Okay, so gut microbiome, huge factor. What's next on Dr. Hyman's list of inflammation drivers?
The next really big one is diet. Specifically, eating too much starch and sugar.
Ah, the usual suspects?
Pretty much. He explains how this drives something called insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance, we hear that term a lot. Break it down for us, what's actually going on.
Okay, so basically, your cells start ignoring the signal from insulin. Insulin's job is to help sugar get out of your blood and into your cells for energy.
Right.
But if the cells become resistant, your pancreas has to pump out more and more insulin just to try and get the job done. And a huge reason for this resistance is just the sheer amount of starch and sugar we eat now.
How much are we talking?
Dr. Hyman quotes a figure. It's something like 1 pound per person per day on average in the U.S., which is historically just unheard of.
A pound a day. Wow. Okay, so how does the insulin resistance, lead to inflammation?
Well, that excess insulin encourages the storage of fat, especially visceral fat. That's the dangerous fat deep inside around your organs, your belly fat. And those specific fat cells, they're not just sitting there. They actually act like little factories, pumping out inflammatory chemicals called adipocytokines.
Adipo what now?
Adipocytokines. Think of them like inflammatory messengers. You might remember the term cytokine storm from all the COVID talk.
Oh, yeah. Same kind of thing.
Similar idea, yeah.
Yeah.
These compounds are part of the immune response. So having that extra belly fat, often driven by sugar and starch, means you're constantly producing these inflammatory signals.
So it's like your own body fat is fanning the flames.
That's a great way to put it. Dr. Hyman literally says it puts your body on fire. And he connects this directly to being overweight, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, even dementia.
And it makes sense then why he says heart disease risk goes up with inflammation, even if cholesterol looks okay.
Exactly. It's not just about cholesterol. Inflammation is a huge piece of that puzzle. And, science is getting better at measuring this stuff.
How so?
Well, there's research, like from David Furman at Stanford, identifying specific inflammatory markers in the blood that seem to predict aging and chronic disease risk really well.
Stuff beyond the standard tests.
Yeah, more advanced things. There are companies like Edifice Health starting to commercialize these kinds of tests. But even now, doctors use markers like C-reactive protein or CRP as a general inflammation indicator.
Okay, got it. So gut health, diet specifically starch and sugar. What's the third big driver Dr. Hyman talks about?
The third major one is chronic stress.
Stress, the modern plague.
Tell me about it. Dr. Hyman explains how ongoing stress fuels inflammation through several different pathways. It can actually contribute to insulin resistance, for one.
So stress makes the sugar problem worse.
It can, yeah. And it can lead to weight gain, too. He tells this really striking story about a woman whose weight changed dramatically based purely on the stress she was feeling about her daughter's safety.
Wow, that really shows the mind-body connection, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And there's this field called sociogenomics now.
Sociogenomics.
Yeah, it studies how our social environment, our interactions with others, actually affects our genes. It can literally turn inflammatory genes on or off depending on whether we're experiencing conflict or connection.
Seriously. Our relationships can change our gene expression related to inflammation?
That's what the research suggests. Dr. Hyman calls the brain a potent pharmacy. Our thoughts alone can either drive inflammation or calm it down.
That's incredible. But maybe not something we focus on enough. Training our brains, I mean.
He makes that exact point. We don't often think about training our minds for better health in that way. And the impact is huge. There's even a book called Inflamed that links this biological inflammation to wider socioeconomic and political issues. It even suggests things like oppression can be inflammatory.
So it's not just individual choices, it's woven into society.
It seems that way. Think
Right.
about brain inflammation. It's linked to behavioral problems, violence, depression, anxiety, mood issues, maybe even the opioid crisis.
How does that work?
It can kind of disconnect the emotional fight or flight part of the brain from the frontal lobe, the part responsible for rational thought and control.
Man, there's evidence for this.
Yeah, really compelling studies done in prisons and juvenile detention centers. They found that just changing the diet to be anti-inflammatory led to significant drops in violent behavior.
Just with diet. That's amazing.
It really is. And Dr. Hyman also points out, how certain industries might perhaps unintentionally profit from inflammation.
Like who?
Well, obviously food companies selling sugary processed stuff, but maybe even news media that pushes inflammatory content, which algorithms then amplify, creating these echo chambers.
Right. It feeds itself.
Exactly. He also touches on how the big shift in agriculture after World War II, focusing on cheap carbs, had these massive unintended consequences for obesity rates, like going from 5% to 40% obesity in a lifetime. And the environment, too. Plus, think about the billions spent marketing unhealthy food, especially targeting kids through social media, often in ways we don't even notice. It really puts the onus on us, doesn't it?
To be the CEO of our own health, as he says.
Exactly. You have to take charge in this environment.
So, okay, we understand the drivers better. How do we actually know if we have this chronic inflammation? And what can we do?
Well, Dr. Hyman suggests that inflammation is probably playing a role in almost any chronic condition you can think of.
It's a bold statement.
It is, but his point is that if you find and address the root cause of the inflammation, you often see these related conditions just get better as a side effect.
Instead of just taking a pill for each separate disease.
Right. He contrasts that with, say, trying to treat Alzheimer's with Advil, which didn't work, or the whole back and forth about taking aspirin to prevent heart attacks. Sometimes just suppressing inflammation isn't the answer and can even be risky if you don't know why it's there.
So it's about finding the why. How does that differ between approaches?
Generally, conventional medicine might focus more on anti-inflammatory drugs. Functional medicine, which is Dr. Hyman's approach, really digs deep to find and remove the triggers.
Like what kind of triggers?
Things we've talked about: diet, stress, gut issues like microbiome imbalances or leaky gut, hidden infections, environmental toxins, food sensitivities or allergies.
Okay.
And he really emphasizes the power of the basics first. Using food as medicine, exercise, getting enough sleep, stress management like meditation or yoga.
Lifestyle stuff.
Absolutely. Plus, certain supplements can be really helpful things like omega-3 fats, vitamin D, probiotics, zinc, and those powerful phytochemicals you get from colorful plants and spices.
And sometimes you need more specific things.
Yeah, sometimes you have to directly address things like heavy metals or specific gut bugs or food sensitivities if they're major triggers for that individual.
Let's circle back to diet for a sec. What specific foods should we maybe limit or avoid?
It's crucial, he says, to think about both what you eat and what you don't eat. And the fact that around 60% of the average American diet is ultra-processed food is a huge issue.
60%. Wow. People might think they're eating healthy.
Totally. It's easy to be misled. So these ultra-processed foods often start with commodity crops, corn, wheat, soy, cheap raw materials.
Right.
Then they get processed like crazy into things like high fructose corn syrup, really finely ground flour that spikes blood sugar, inflammatory oils like soybean or corn oil, maltodextrin.
How can you spot them easily?
Here's a good tip. Look at the ingredients list. If it's super long, full of words you can't pronounce or stuff you'd never have in your own kitchen cupboard, chances are it's ultra-processed.
Makes sense. Are there other hidden culprits?
Yeah, food additives can be problematic too. Things like thickeners, emulsifiers, carrageenan is one. Various gums, they can potentially disrupt that gut barrier we talked about. Even something called microbial transglutaminase, sometimes called meat glue.
Meat glue? Okay, that sounds dodgy.
Right. It's used to bind proteins together, but there's concern it could contribute to leaky gut and inflammation.
So it really comes back to that gut lining being so important.
Time and time again, yes. Keeping that barrier healthy is key to keeping inflammation in check.
Okay, moving on from food. Dr. Hyman also brought up sleep apnea. How does that fit into the inflammation picture?
Sleep apnea is where you repeatedly stop breathing for short periods during sleep. Often people don't even know they had it.
Snoring is a sign though, right?
Snoring is a big clue, yeah. He mentions using apps like Sleep Cycle can sometimes help you monitor yourself. It's often linked to being overweight, having a thick neck, or sometimes just structural issues in the airway.
So how does stopping breathing cause inflammation?
Well, those pauses in breathing cause oxygen levels to drop, and the body keeps briefly waking itself up. This poor sleep quality messes with your hormones, leads to insulin resistance, ups your risk for diabetes.
The insulin resistance link again.
Exactly. And it also ramps up cravings for sugar and carbs the next day, which just feeds the cycle.
Vicious cycle.
Totally. He tells a story about a lawyer who had undiagnosed sleep apnea. Once it was treated, he lost weight. His insulin resistance improved dramatically just from getting proper sleep and oxygen.
Wow.
Dr. Hyman quotes another expert, Dr. Stephen Lin, who puts it very bluntly, snoring is choking.
That puts it in perspective.
It really does. Even just habitual mouth breathing can be a sign of milder airway issues and contribute to inflammation.
It's amazing how these things connect: sleep, breathing, metabolism, inflammation.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah.
And then there's just plain old sitting around too much.
Don't tell me sitting is inflammatory too.
He says it is. Sitting is inflammatory. Basically, not moving enough leads to poor metabolic function, muscle loss over time, insulin resistance again, and, yep, chronic inflammation.
So we need to move, but not too much.
Right, there's a balance. Regular, moderate exercise is fantastic for reducing inflammation, but extreme excessive exercise can actually create oxidative stress and temporarily increase inflammation. So finding that sweet spot is key.
Okay, finding the balance. Let's talk more about stress management. How does Dr. Hyman approach that?
He thinks it's really important to understand why some people handle stress better than others. He often uses the ACE questionnaire.
Adverse childhood events.
Exactly. To look at past trauma, because early life stress is strongly linked to higher risks of chronic disease and inflammation down the line. He mentions a statistic, something like 1 in 4 Americans experience childhood sexual abuse. It highlights how common significant trauma is.
That's sobering. So understanding the past helps.
It can, yeah. But he also focuses heavily on managing stress now. Our mindset, how we regulate our thoughts and emotions, that's huge for controlling chronic inflammation.
So things like meditation.
Definitely. Practices that cultivate what he calls equanimity, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, prayer, they can really lower stress hormones and inflammation.
It's about building resilience.
Yes. He talks about intentionally building these anti-inflammatory structures into your life. The diet, the exercise, the supplements if needed, reducing toxins, but also things like strong social connections, deep relationships.
And he mentioned hot and cold therapy.
Yeah. Saunas, steam rooms, cold plunges or showers. He sees them as really powerful ways to discharge stress from the nervous system. He even mentioned using them during his stressful residency.
Interesting. It feels like a very whole person approach.
Absolutely. Mind, body, environment, relationships. It all plays a role. He even shares a bit about his own battles with gut issues driving inflammation, once from mercury poisoning, another time a really bad C. diff infection after antibiotics.
So he's lived through it himself.
Seems so. He mentioned needing some pretty intensive therapies in those severe cases: ozone, hyperbaric oxygen, high-dose 5E vitamins, even stem cells. But that's rare. Most people respond really well to the foundational lifestyle changes.
He also talked about phytochemicals. What are those again?
Right, phytochemicals, plant chemicals. He explains that food isn't just calories, it's information for our bodies, and these compounds are key messengers.
More than just vitamins and minerals.
Way more. We know about prebiotics feeding good bacteria and probiotics being good bacteria, but phytochemicals, especially polyphenols, are crucial for feeding specific beneficial bugs.
Like which ones?
He gives the example of Akkermansia mucinifera. It loves polyphenols found in things like cranberry, pomegranate, green tea, curcumin.
And what does Akkermansia do?
It lives in the gut lining and helps keep it strong and healthy, so feeding it helps prevent that leaky gut we keep talking about.
It all connects. Eat the rainbow, basically.
Pretty much. Lots of colorful plants.
Yeah.
He did mention he's working on a gut food product, presumably to concentrate some of these beneficial compounds.
Okay, so if someone suspects they have inflammation, how do they get tested? What tests does he mention?
He makes an important distinction. Testing for inflammation versus testing to find out why you have inflammation.
Right. Measuring versus finding the cause.
Exactly. So for measuring general inflammation, there are common tests like HS-CRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, and SED rate, ESR.
Okay.
You can get more specific, measuring inflammatory messengers like cytokines, interleukins, TNF-alpha. And he mentioned Dr. Furman's research again, looking for even more predictive markers.
Are there other immune tests?
Yeah, things like autoantibodies for autoimmune issues, allergy testing, checking immunoglobulin levels, even how well your T cells are working. But again, he stresses that the real goal is to figure out the underlying cause, the why.
And he shared a case study that really drove that home, didn't he?
Yes, a really powerful one. A woman with severe rheumatoid arthritis, migraines, gut issues, just really suffering.
What did they find?
They identified her triggers.
Mm-hmm.
She had gluten sensitivity, SIBO, that's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and heavy metal toxicity.
So multiple root causes.
Exactly. And the intervention was targeted. Take out the gluten, fix the gut bacteria imbalance, help her body detoxify the metals.
And the result?
Complete turnaround. Symptoms gone, inflammatory markers back to normal, and crucially, she stayed healthy for over 20 years. It just shows what's possible when you address the fundamental drivers.
That's incredibly hopeful. What about supplements? Can they really make a difference?
He thinks so. Even something basic like a good multivitamin can help, providing the nutrients your body needs for its own inflammation control systems to work properly.
Like cofactors for enzymes and things.
Exactly. And he points out that nutrient deficiencies are actually really common. But beyond basics, some specific supplements are key players.
Which ones did he highlight?
Omega-3 fats, especially EPA and DHA. Vitamin D is huge for regulating genes involved in inflammation. Glutathione support, you get precursors from broccoli family veggies, or supplements like NAC, though he noted NAC access can sometimes be tricky.
Okay. Any others?
Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric. and various polyphenol supplements that concentrate those beneficial plant compounds we talked about earlier.
Got it. And the last big topic was fasting. How does that tie into inflammation?
It's fascinating. He explains, our bodies are sort of wired for periods of scarcity, not constant abundance. We have genes that kick in during fasting to promote healing and repair.
But we don't have genes to handle constant donuts.
Pretty much. We lack good mechanisms for dealing with the sheer excess, especially things like constant high fructose corn syrup. So when we do restrict food intake, good things happen.
Like what?
Inflammation goes down, antioxidant production goes up, muscle building can be stimulated, fat burning increases, stem cell function improves, mitochondria get healthier, cells clean themselves up through autophagy. It's quite a list.
And how do you trigger that? Just stop eating?
There are different ways. Time-restricted eating, just shortening your eating window each day. Intermittent fasting, like skipping meals occasionally. Longer fasts, fasting mimicking diets, even ketogenic diets can activate some of these same beneficial pathways.
So less inflammation, more repair, better energy. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, the outcomes he lists are impressive. Reduced inflammation, better antioxidant status, stem cell production, potentially better muscle and bone density, even improved brain function and neuroplasticity.
Wow. Okay, that covers the main points. He also tackled some listener questions from online, right?
He did. A few good ones came up.
What was the first one about?
Grains. Someone asked if grains are generally inflammatory or anti-inflammatory. It's a common question.
And the answer is?
It's nuanced, as you'd expect. Highly processed stuff like white flour, definitely inflammatory. But some intact ancient whole grains, like the Himalayan tartary buckwheat he mentioned, might actually be anti-inflammatory.
So it depends on the grain and the processing.
Hugely. Also, how it's grown, glyphosate use is a concern. And the reality is, most grain eaten in the U.S. is refined white flour. Plus, for people with existing gut issues like leaky gut, even whole grains can sometimes cause problems.
So maybe try cutting them out if inflammation is high.
He often suggests that temporarily, yeah. And high grain intake often goes hand in hand with that insulin resistance issue again. But for some people, carefully chosen whole grains can definitely be part of a healthy diet. Context matters.
Okay. What was the next question about?
Hormones. Someone asked about the link between hormonal balance or imbalance and inflammation.
Another big connection.
Definitely. Stress is a major trigger for both hormone chaos and inflammation. Think insulin, cortisol, adrenaline, even sex hormones. Insulin itself, he points out, is a key inflammatory hormone.
And hormone therapies. Can they affect inflammation?
Some can, yeah. Certain synthetic hormones, like those in Premarin or some birth control pills, have been shown to raise inflammatory markers like CRP.
So people should stop taking them?
Not necessarily. It's about awareness and informed choice. Talk to your doctor, understand the potential effects, maybe look at ways to mitigate them with nutrients if the medication is necessary. He specifically cautions against options known to be more inflammatory, like Premarin, if alternatives exist.
Makes sense. And the last question was about genetics. Are some people just wired for more inflammation?
That's what the listener asked. And yes, Dr. Hyman confirmed that genetic variations can make you more prone to a higher inflammatory response.
Can you test for that?
You can. There's genetic testing for variations in cytokine genes and other inflammatory pathways. But, and this is crucial, he really stresses that predisposition isn't predestination.
Meaning your genes aren't your fate.
Exactly. If you know you have that tendency, you just need to be extra diligent about finding your specific inflammation triggers and really doubling down on all the anti-inflammatory lifestyle stuff.
Diet, stress reduction, sleep, exercise, polyphenols, probiotics.
The works.
Works. Hot-cold therapies, too. For people who maybe have their 23andMe data but no functional medicine doc, he mentioned a site called Genetic Genie, might offer some insights into relevant genes, but cautioned that interpreting it properly is complex and professional guidance is best. All right, it's complicated stuff. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. If you had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive?
I'd say the top 3 drivers to really focus on are 1, your gut health, that microbiome balance is critical. 2, your diet, especially minimizing refined starches and sugars. And 3, managing chronic stress effectively.
Got diet, stress.
Yeah, and the really empowering part is that you can make changes in these areas. Lifestyle shifts can genuinely make a huge difference to your inflammation levels. It's not entirely out of your control.
That's a great message. So what's one small, actionable thing someone listening could maybe try today or this week?
Maybe just start with awareness. Take a closer look at the ingredient labels on the food you normally buy. Are there lots of unpronounceable things? Or try incorporating just 2 minutes of mindful breathing when you feel stressed. Just something small to start building that anti-inflammatory foundation.
I like that. Small steps. And maybe a final thought to leave people with.
Well, thinking about everything we've discussed, maybe consider that getting a handle on your own inflammation, really understanding and addressing it, might not just improve your physical health, it could potentially change how you feel emotionally, how you interact with others, how you experience the world. It's a deep connection worth pondering.